Oh, yeah.
Well, hello and welcome. I'm Sue Britz.
And I'm Tina Lokkbakk calling from Cuba, Sue.
Woohoo! This is the podcast. No matter where we are in the world, where we talk about what life is like when we put on new tread, new wheels for the next adventure. Hey, Tina, we got a great connection.
Fantastic. Anything will be better than last week.
It-
Thank you for you listeners that followed along to the end.
I appreciate it too. Look where you are. I'm looking at your picture. You've got there's a breezy palm tree in the background. I see your hair is wind whipped. You've got a big smile on your face. So tell me about what's going on.
So I am about 2 blocks off the ocean along the famous Malecon walkway at an old hotel that's just beautiful. Yeah, and I'm sitting here watching my motorcycle not get stolen.
So you're at a hotel so you can get internet more clearly or better than any.
Let's stop there. You said so you can get internet, period.
Okay, gotcha.
That is correct.
Well, here I can't be there. I would love to, but I want to keep things kind of all Cuban today.
Oh, that sounds fun.
So I'm not in Cuba, obviously, but
Obviously.
I don't know a whole lot about Cuba, but I do know I've met someone famous. I've met a couple people who are famous from Cuba. Um, just saying,
Okay, come on. Come out with it. Come out with it.
Okay,
Who
so
are these
how
people?
you've heard of Celia Cruz, right?
Oh my God, I love Celia Cruz. Of course, the queen of salsa.
She is the
I
queen
don't
of
dance.
salsa,
Mm-hmm.
huarachas, and Cuban music. She is also well, she has passed on, but she was an amazing woman. Another one of those women who are on the U.S. quarters. Did you know that?
Whoa, no, I
Yeah.
didn't. That says everything.
Well, and because she left Cuba when she was a kid, well, a young person, and was allowed to return at some point, but she settled in New Jersey. So she became a U.S. citizen. So she's not just Cuban, she's Cuban American. She left during the exile. And she's famous for her music. I would love to have put it on, but of course, we don't have the rights to put music on our podcast. So, um, but yeah, I met her.
So, can you tell me? Now I'm jealous. Because anybody that knows Celia Cruz, and if you don't, there's a Netflix series about Celia in her life. But she was an amazing, strong woman, and so of course you met her. Now I'm super jealous.
No, it
Please
was
do tell the story and let me roll my eyes at you.
it wasn't like we sat down and had café con azúcar. No, no, that was
Oh,
her saying, right? Azúcar.
yes,
Yeah.
azúcar. Everything was sugar, which makes sense. This is
Well,
Cuba.
well, and life was sweet, and you have to,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. No, I met her. Didn't sit down and have a cafe with her, but I met her one time. We were traveling to Mexico, and was in the Yucatan. So it's over, in the Caribbean area, and she was on the plane that we were on. She sat right in front of us.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Oh,
the
I just got goosebumps.
the whole flight. I mean, you know how when people sit right in front of you, they lean back and they're like literally you're sharing air.
So she was leaned back the entire time
She
into your
was.
lap.
I have to say she that just sounds wrong, but anyhow, no. I didn't. I knew who she was. She was traveling with. It must have been family or entourage or whatever. Not a lot of people. Maybe it was a group of 3, 4 people, but she and not everyone knew who she was. She was trying to keep it on the
Wow.
DL, right?
Incognito.
Right. But so I said hello in Espanol. I did
Oh, how
say
old were you?
I was in my 20s, mid 20s.
Wow.
But I said
First
hello.
class?
No, no, just a regular
So
airplane.
she wasn't flying first class either?
No, no, she's a
Oh, I just
person.
love Celia.
Yeah. No, but so I didn't get to, like, have a conversation. I didn't wanna bother her, but,
Right.
hearing her and her people, and then she slept and all that, was it was a cool experience to know it was Celia Cruz sitting right there. You know,
So
e
can you tell me, like, she's very extravagant some when she's on stage anyway. Like, so was she extravagantly dressed? Like, did she have like a bright wig on or lots of like colorful clothes, or was it very muted?
It was muted, but, she carries herself with that
She
charisma, with
does.
that
Oh,
that way.
strength.
Yes, with that azúcar. I mean, she is an amazing woman. Did you know that she started off, studying to be a teacher?
Oh God, now I even love her more.
Yeah.
I'm falling in love deeper every time. No, I've got no.
Yeah, she was thinking she was just gonna be, a wife and a mother and a teacher and all that stuff. But, moving to the US changed things for her. She ended up
And
with so many accolades. She got an honorary doctorate from Yale. She had
wow.
3 Grammys. She made 75 records. An amazing person.
And I didn't get to know her really who she was until like the last, I don't know, probably 10 years, like really listened to her because I was teaching music in my Spanish classes.
Hmm.
And I just have to tell you that a lot of her music is all about just being positive. Like, so she radiates positivity,
Yep.
but her music is like, life is hard. The main song, I've got to do a plug for her, but one of the songs was Carnival, and
Yep.
that's where she talks about, it's hard but enjoy it, like enjoy life, and let's like embrace diversity. Let's like, she's so very open to the world and everyone in it. And my other favorite one is called Rie y Llora, which is, laugh and cry. And again, she confronts life as it's real. You do both. That's just how it is. But she always focuses by the end on something positive. That's why I fell in love with her.
Absolutely. One of her, she would say, when an opportunity presents itself, grab it, hold on tight, and don't let it go. La vida
Ah,
es un carnaval. Yeah. Yeah.
yes.
Very
Oh,
true. Okay. Well, if we don't have enough with Celia Cruz, there's
I,
more.
I I could go on. Well, I know. I have to tell the audience that you sneak taught me that you knew someone else or met someone else that's Cuban. And, again, my list of anybody famous is two. And you've met another famous Cuban person. So go ahead with it and explain, because Maria was like, how did she meet him, Sue? So you need to explain this. It's a him this time.
Yeah. Jose Canseco. You've heard of
Ugh,
him.
yes, and I'm not even an athlete or a sports person at all, but even I have heard of him. So
Well,
do tell.
he's another one who immigrated to the United States. I mean, he was born in Havana. And he immigrated to the United States also during the Revolution time. And he became a U.S. citizen as well. I met Jose Canseco.
Oh my gosh. Keep
Well,
going.
I would have to say, let's turn it around. Jose met me.
Met you
Yes,
over a
because
coffee.
no, I was sitting at a blackjack table in
Oh my
Caesar's
gosh.
Tahoe, uh, and playing blackjack. I had to have been like a $5 table because I wouldn't afford more. He comes up, sits right down next to me.
No way.
Yeah, and he was with friends or a little entourage, not much, just like 3 or 4 people, maybe at the most. He was the only one in his group that sat at the table. The others stood behind him. Maybe they were his bodyguards, but yeah,
Bodyguards.
because it was right at the height of his fame. But he sat down right next to me, and we started playing blackjack. And it's like, dude, playing blackjack with him. And I was like, just he's just another guy. But I knew I wasn't an A's fan at that time. I am now, but I knew everyone. If you lived in NorCal, you knew who this guy
Uh
was. But He
Because
it
see, I wouldn't have even noticed. Like, I'd say 90% of the athletes out there, I wouldn't even, they're so safe with me if they want to be all incognito because I would just see them as a regular person.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I wasn't either. It was never on my none of that was on my radar, but he was in the news all the time in the papers and back in those days when we had newspapers and on TV, that you couldn't help not knowing who he was. And so I didn't know about all his MVP and all-star team playing and he's a champion of the when the A's won the World Series back in 89. All the number of bases that he's stolen, he was the rookie of the year, all those things that he's known for. I didn't know at the time, but I did know who he was, and you you could sense something was going on because there was an entourage that even with those two, 3 or 4 people that were with him, you felt like there was this presence walking through the casino. And then
Wow.
here's the
Did
thing:
he seem nice?
he seemed
Did he
nice.
seem down to earth or?
He seemed nice. He was playing cards. He wasn't like show offy or putting big tons of money down or anything at this table, or you know that I could afford to play at. But I
Yeah, I'm
will.
impressed he was at a $5 table, quite frankly.
Well,
To me, that.
well, the only reason why it would matter is that you'd want to have maybe he wanted to be around regular people, but he could have set they would have
Mm,
set up his own table, but it's not as much
right.
fun playing with other people. I mean,
Real people,
that's part of
everyday people.
yeah,
That's
that's
true.
part of the deal because you can bet as much as they allow you to bet at any table, but that's not the end of the story.
Oh
Because
my God. No
after
way.
yeah, after he left the table and all that, and I was still playing, and then decided let's go over to the check out the disco. Back in those days, it was the disco, the nightclub, and so went in there
Oh,
and
wait. Back up. How old were you then? What
again,
year was
it's
this?
in the mid. I was in mid 20s.
Oh, everybody you met was in the mid 20s
Yeah,
then.
I
What
yeah,
happened? We've
gotten
gone a
that back.
span without meeting stars.
No, I did. They just weren't Cuban.
Okay, keep going.
All right, so that's those are for another day, but this is all things Cuban. But anyhow,
Okay.
so I'm walking in the disco, and lo and behold, who follows me in there? Jose
Stop.
Canseco. It's true. He didn't ask me to dance, and he did not. Thank God, because I probably wouldn't have done it anyhow. But he followed me into like he just knew where the right places were to be in the casino. I mean, my table, my disco. Yeah,
I see. I see.
that's my
So
Jose
unlike
Canseco.
Celia, right? Unlike Celia, this guy, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
Well, and
he
then
came to you
I
twice,
I wasn't
kind of.
super impressed because I'm not impressed by or at least by the sports people, professional level sports people. I liked someone who's got some social stuff to tell you about because then he ended up with um, being arrested and having family
Oh, I
aggravated
forgot about
battery
all
against his
that.
wife and all that stuff. So yeah, not my cup of tea. But back in that
Yeah.
day when he was at the height, you just at least you knew who he was. So he got in trouble for all that work with the steroids. It was uh he was kind of a little bit of a crazer. Want to hear one of his quotes?
Yeah.
He says, sure, I tampered with my body chemistry and I emerged more than human. It's only a matter of time before an entire race of people are raised on steroids, and who knows what they'll be able to
Ooh.
accomplish. Live to 150 years old, remain sexually potent into your 90s,
Oh.
interbreed with dolphins and whales. There's literally no limit to what steroids can do for a person. Do you know what it means to feel like God?
Wow. Wow. That says everything in that quote, does it
Yeah, and that
not?
was later, that was according to Juiced, Wild Times, Rampant Roids, Smash Hits, and How Baseball Got Big. So that was my source on that one. But yeah, had I known that stuff,
It wouldn't have been quite as
I would have
exciting.
I would have ran.
Yeah, you probably would have gotten up from the table and
I
left
could
the
have
the
stole the other
discotheque.
base. Yes, get out of there. All right, Tina. So I heard that you haven't met famous Cubans even since you've been there, but you've been to some cool places. Can you
Oh,
tell me a little bit about your favorite places in Cuba?
And I can tell you why they're my favorite places. I
Okay.
didn't realize this, but I'm absolutely intrigued by the mafia, all things mafia. And so one of the first things I've done is studied all about the different places here in Havana
Okay,
where
hold
the
it. Back it up.
mafia, yeah.
Back it up. Back it up. How is it you're into mafia, and what does that mean? What do you organized crime is what you're talking about?
No, just the whole like Lucky Luciano and Meyer Lansky and Al Capone.
So you
To
mean
me, it's just
historic mafia?
yeah,
Okay, not
and
modern
just
day like I'm
no,
a
no, no,
crime
no,
boss
no,
person.
no. The people that started Las Vegas, the people that got Havana going. To me, it's just back in the days, back in the 40s, 30s, the prohibition,
Okay.
just the whole idea of it. It fascinates
You were
me.
scaring me
No.
there for a moment. Okay. So this is the
Oh yeah.
mafiosas of the historic
I'm
bent.
a
Okay.
history teacher, Sue. So yeah, it goes back in time, not the living day.
Okay. So
I'm
go
good if they stay where they are and I'm here where I am.
what do
No,
they
I
call
just
what do they call the mafiosas of today? Do they still call them mafia or what is it? The
that's a really good question. I have no idea.
Okay,
I
thank
have
God you
no
have no
idea.
idea. Okay. Anyhow,
No, I don't.
okay, so
I would
back
just
to
think
the
the big bosses
the vintage
and
vintage mafia. Go ahead. Sorry. Let's hear your story.
vintage mafia. So first, as a kid, I remember going to Vegas with my parents, and it's just amazing, right? All the lights and everything. And then I come to Havana, and that's where I started to learn that there was a connection. So it's Vegas pretty much came to Havana. And so, like the Tropicana nightclub where they have cabaret dancers, it's because it started in Vegas and they wanted to have a little bit of Vegas over here, which is how the gambling began. And they brought all the casinos to this place here, and it also infused the economy. So one of my favorite places is the Hotel Nacional because in 1946 all the big mob bosses ended up meeting there at the hotel, and that's where they had decided that they were going to protect themselves financially, set up here, and how they would they wanted to equally distribute the profits among the bosses. So that's what that meeting was about, and it's very historic, and the hotel is absolutely stunning and old and maintained. It's where all the stars would come here, and it's beautiful. So I've gone there, and I've also been.
Got the Copacabana? La
Yeah, yeah,
Copa, Copacabana. Okay.
Havana, yeah, very. So I used to confuse it. So the Tropicana is what we think of at the Coca Cabana, but maybe that song was based on the Tropicana, but not. But it's Lola. She was a showgirl. Anyway, so the Tropicana, and I went a year ago with my daughter and Maria, and I have to tell you, it was absolutely outstanding. And I think what I could describe it as, it's like going to Disneyland and seeing It's a Small World, but with real life people. And every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, they come out with a brand new set of outrageously amazing costumes. And I don't know what I loved more was the costumes, the dancers. It was one of the most professional things. And of course, that's where all the mafiosos would go and they would have their little prostitutes with them. And oh, fascinating. So I've been there too.
Okay, well, that sounds fun. And I'm going to put that on my list when I come to visit you there.
We cannot wait. We cannot wait for you to come. We're ready.
What's your other favorite s- place?
Location?
I'll hold it. So I know, see, one of my favorites growing up as a young
Yeah.
person, I have to say, was Ernest Hemingway. Now, it kind of bothers me as a person
Yes.
that I am now because there was a lot of misogyny and bravado of the uh, a- and but here's what I will say to defend myself. We didn't have a lot of choice in what were considered classic literature to as I was going through, junior high, high school, college. This is what, it was all men's work, what we were exposed to. And I have to say, I loved Hemingway's style of writing. He could
I do
go on,
too.
he could go on with these very long, long sentences that would last a whole paragraph, and then short ones as well. And it would change. It would the voice came out in his writing, and I loved it. And I loved what he wrote about too, when it wasn't misogynistic. I loved, hearing about Spain and the culture of Spain, and surviving tough times, and the old man on the sea. I used to think of that
Amazing.
when I was a kid on Tampa Bay on the sailboats. When I by myself on this little boat, I was think of the old man in the sea and the fishing and all that stuff. So all those topics were of interest to me. But, as I got older and understood more and I was exposed to more literature, even though I was reading all these classics, they're almost all male written stuff. But anyhow, I have I have an affinity for Ernest Hemingway and knowing that
And I
he
would like to absolve you of
okay.
any guilt whatsoever because I too have felt the same. But if we just narrow it down to not the person, but the words that that man can write and the way he writes, and just look at it as the talent of words on a paper, he is amazing. And there's nothing wrong with appreciating someone who can have a talent. He's an artist.
So he's known for going to Cuba. And my
He lived
understanding
here
his
for 20 wonderful years. He loved it. And what's interesting, Sue, is I too fell in love with him because I love Spanish. And I feel like there's a connection with him there too because I still have not yet made it to Pamplona, but he has gone to all these places that I want to go to because he too loved the language, he too loved the culture, and part of what was my lure too coming to Cuba and doing this is because of him. And luckily Maria and her parents have taken me to all the different spots. So I have been to pretty much all of his haunts and I just love stepping back in time. I think that's why I am in love with Cuba because there's the history here are the things that I enjoy. The parts of history that I find fascinating are all encapsulated in this town and in this country. And here he is, 20 years. And in fact, he died only 1 year after the revolution because he decided, or two, he left Cuba a year after the revolution had taken over because it just wasn't safe and it was changing. And so he left and he died a year later by suicide. And I often wonder, is it because he left Cuba? Because I know he was happy here. Everybody called him Papa, Papa Hemingway. I mean, there's something pretty amazing about how the people felt about him when you call someone dad.
yeah.
So he had a persona and he had a very vivacious, charming persona and he loved people. So,
So I know that he liked to have apparently a mojito at the bodeguita in Havana, right?
yes. And the Floridita and he had the daiquiri.
Okay.
Yes.
And then what about did he have his six-toed cats there?
Ooh, I think it's coming back to me. I'll have to double check, but I'm pretty sure yes. He had a whole ranch outside of Havana, and that's where I'm sure the cats. Because you're right, he had a lot of cats too.
Yeah, he had those down in the Keys. And so when I went to his house in the Keys,
Ah,
I got to see descendants of the six-toed cats all over the place. It's crazy.
that's it. Well, that could be where I'm confusing it because I too had to go to the Keys specifically for that. In fact, I made Maria. We had to drive down for the day because I said I can't not see his house in the Keys. So we drove down just to see his house there. Also stunning. Love that
Fabulous.
man. Good taste.
So, Tina, what are you going to do this
Yes.
afternoon?
So, 30% of the island has or follows an Afro Cuban religion called Santeria. And so today I've been invited to Maria's neighbor's padrino's house, which is like I would say the priest would be what you would call the padrino. So we're going to go and see a celebration of a saint. And then it's a lot of drum playing and a lot of dancing. And I was also invited this week by my next door neighbors, which is Maria's aunt and uncle, and we went to see their granddaughter who came back from Italy to celebrate the Saint Day. So we went and watched that celebration too. So I get to compare, and I'm very excited. And you know what I have to admit, being kind of like truly a sore thumb that stands out like a neon sign in any crowd. No matter how hard I try to dress down, or I even bought Cuban clothing like from the market, but I still look so not Cuban. But what I love about the people here is they're very welcoming, but they also don't make a big deal, because I would feel uncomfortable if I kept walking into different places where, the center is like staring at me. But instead, it's like they're just very welcoming, and I just feel like one of the crowd. It is the most comfortable situation. I just love it here. I love the people an awful lot. And Maria once said to me, and I think this is one of the greatest values, there is every color under the rainbow here, and everybody is kind of accepted, and it's just embraced, and it's very different from the States that way. And I love that feeling here. So anyway, I get to go to another Santeria ceremony this afternoon, so we'll see what that's like. And I'll be driving another human on the back of my motorcycle, so let's all wish us good luck and safety and arrival.
You do wear a helmet, right?
Yes. And the helmets here, I would have to say, are more like visual encapsulations of your brain. In other words, you're wearing a helmet. If you were to crash, I think it would just keep the streets a little bit cleaner,
Oh
but I'm not
God.
sure that they would be quite effective.
Oh
But I
dear.
have one imported from the States.
Oh jeez.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
That wraps up this episode of Retired. Thanks for listening.
Join us next week, our next adventure in retirement. Until then, please feel free to lend your feedback or ask questions by emailing us at retiredpodcastnewtread@gmail.com. You're invited to follow us on Facebook at Retired Podcast New Tread. Check the show notes for links and contact information.
Retired is co-hosted by Sue Britz and Tina Lokkbakk. It's produced, directed, and edited by Sue Britz. Music and graphics by me too. Please click to subscribe so that you won't miss your chance to join
our
retired road trip.